As the only man left in the Beverly Hillbillies, a lot has happened behind the scenes at the most famous mansion in TV history. Now, Max Baer Jr. is peeling back the curtains on what happened between the cast, and now, fans finally get to know something they've been dying to know: his real relationship with Irene Ryan. Was there a hidden animosity between them, or was it all for show? At 88, Max Baer Jr. finally tells the truth about Irene Ryan. And stay tuned, because we'll also look at how the actor lived his life marked by massive success and legal wars that lasted a lifetime. Maximilian Adalbert Baer Jr., simply known as Max Baer Jr., is a former actor, comedian, producer, and director, famously known on the Beverly Hillbillies as Jethro Bodine. From there, Baer's life became a whirlwind of fun and fame, but not without a hiccup or two. To get to that, let's start where he made it big. The 1960s were a whirlwind of cultural moments, ranging from the civil rights movement to the Vietnam War. In such gritty times, people can't help but look for a means of relief. And while the news becomes increasingly meddlesome, shows lean more into escapism, like the Beverly Hillbillies. It first premiered on CBS back in 1962, revolving around a country family, the Clampetts, who recently relocated to Beverly Hills after selling big on their Ozark Hills property. Within 3 weeks of its airtime, it soon catapulted to become the #1 show in the United States. The Beverly Hillbillies also introduced hillbilly as a national archetype, an idea that many critics called lowbrow corn, but something the audience bought. You see, despite the Clampetts being unrefined, their family consistently portrayed an honest, kind, and morally upright attitude and character, despite encountering the snobby elites of Beverly Hills. As we've mentioned before, the show premiered at just the right time. With the civil rights movement and Vietnam War taking place, the Beverly Hillbillies became the safety valve for many at the time. Besides being a hit, the series also introduced a new genre called the rural sitcom. Series creator Paul Henning managed to leave his legacy by introducing such a genre, and it also became CBS's brand at the time, even earning the nickname Country Broadcasting System. It's surprising how such a simple TV show with a basic premise can affect so many people, and its influence is still evident in today's shows. But of course, the show wouldn't be what it was if it weren't for the people involved, especially the actors, who brought the characters to life. The cast, of course, is what makes the whole premise of the show work. Buddy Ebsen, Donna Douglas, Nancy Culp, Max Baer Jr., Irene Ryan, and Raymond Bailey are the very heart of the show. But sadly, only one of them is alive today. Max Baer Jr. Baer portrays the slow-witted Jethro, the relative of Jed Clampett, and he has also portrayed his twin sister, Jetrine, dressed in drag, while Baer's character portrayed the son of Buddy Ebsen's character. Jed's cousin, Irene Ryan, portrayed Granny, Jed's mother-in-law. After decades, Baer finally reveals how the Hillbillies cast treats each other behind the scenes. In such a harsh industry, it's hard to find genuine people who would show care for you. Max Baer Jr. was lucky enough to befriend the whole cast of the Beverly Hillbillies. But make no mistake, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. Baer finally revealed the true dynamics of the actors behind the scenes in an exclusive interview with MeTV back in 2024. In the interview, the actor claims that sometimes the closer you are, the more you fight. Baer told Stephen Cox that the relationship is like a dog and a cat. They may be enemies, but if you put a dog and a cat in a room together, they will learn to tolerate each other and get along because they know they have to do that to survive, Baer explains. This analogy is how he explains their work relationship, even going as far as to say that it's the way most shows operate. For him, he revealed how it had become pretty tedious to listen to all these people on the television shows tell how they're all a family and how they all love one another and are so happy together. The actor was pretty sure, saying how he knows from experience that it's all crap and that they don't really get along. There are a lot of fights, but they aren't unusual. That's normal living, he explains. You may like or even love somebody, but from time to time, you're going to get pissed off at them and tell them to get lost. He then revealed how he once yelled at his co-stars, specifically Irene Ryan, or he'd get annoyed at Donna Douglas, which would make her cry. On the other hand, he's not that insufferable either, since there were times when Buddy Ebsen would get fed up with him and storm off mid-conversation without another word. Sure, there is occasional friction, To those familiar with the industry, it's pretty standard for a cast and crew working together for a while. Just want to casually remind everyone that the Beverly Hillbillies ran for 9 whole seasons, so they've been together for a while. But that's natural, Baer defends. Not everything runs smoothly. It's obvious to anyone with a big brain in his head, who has been fortunate to have a mother and a father, that they might fight and argue. Sometimes, the closer you are, the more you fight. Ultimately, Baer wraps up his piece by saying not to let anyone else pick on them, stating how he has exclusive rights to yell at Irene Ryan, Buddy Ebsen, or Donna Douglas, but if it's somebody outside of our little clique, Baer is quick to tell that person off. Auditioning for roles is a pretty stressful experience, but luckily for Max Baer Jr., he was not alone in this hurdle. In fact, he even had the guts to do it, thanks to Irene Ryan. According to an overview of the series written by Stephen Cox, Max Baer Jr. and Irene Ryan happened to test on the same day, he for Jethro and she for Granny. When the two finally had free time to take their lunch during the auditions, Baer and Ryan headed out together, and that's where it happened. At lunchtime, we both went over to this place called The Shack, around the corner from General Service Studios, where the tests were being done, and she bought me martinis, Baer recalled. Well, I'm not a drinker, and the martinis just knocked me right on my butt, so when I came back to the set, I was supposed to walk into this cabin in the scene, and as I go through the door, I bumped into the door jamb with my shoulder, the actor continued. I looked at the door jamb and said, "'Excuse me," with that stupid grin on my face. Little did Baer know at the time that this clumsy acting of his was the very thing that landed him the role of Jethro. During his audition, the producers and casting director realized that he would be the perfect actor to play a clumsy and dim-witted character. Suffice it to say, they found their Jethro that day. At least finally, after years, we're pleased to know that the Beverly Hillbillies have gotten along fairly well in reality. This is just 2 behind-the-scenes secrets of the show. Can you imagine how much messier the whole scene would have been during that time if it had been revealed fully? Sadly, we won't have the full context, but we do have some interesting on-set secrets about the show that you never knew. As we said before, the 1960s were a whirlwind of events, and who would have thought someone could conceive something beautiful from something so tragic and devastating? Show creator Paul Henning did. While the U.S. was right in the midst of the Civil War, he had an idea. This idea came to him one fine day during the 1950s, while he was traveling around the rural South. Here he began to wonder what it would feel like for a country-living family to be uprooted and relocated to a modern city like Beverly Hills. Thus, the Beverly Hillbillies was born. Strangely enough, the show almost ended up with a different title too. The original title sounds just about the same as the one we know now, with a few of the words rearranged, but it made all the difference. The original title was a bit of a mouthful, but actually, Paul Henning filmed the pilot under the name The Hillbillies of Beverly Hills. But right before the first episode officially premiered, the network found their working title a bit too long for promo materials and TV. Hence, they shortened it to The Beverly Hillbillies. With this, it created a catchier tone, emphasizing the family's out-of-place predicament in a new setting. But this wasn't the only change the producers made right before the show became public. A certain cast member also had them do a little rewriting as well. American actor Buddy Ebsen portrayed the family patriarch Jed Clampett in the series. As we all know, the family came from humble origins, with him being practically the poster boy of a backwoods country guy and an illiterate. For the show's sake, this background of Jed's is important, but the actor had some firm boundaries regarding some things. He was adamant that Jed's character wouldn't be seen as plain stupid. As a result, he had the writers of the show rework his character, which is why we now have Jed Clampett, who is much more sensible than he originally was. Besides the male lead character, there was also something that almost happened that could have changed not only the show's title but also its trajectory as well. Obviously, if the show is titled The Beverly Hillbillies, it's only natural that it takes place in Beverly Hills, California. But did you know? The whole premise almost happened in the Big Apple, New York City. This was because when the producers were scouting ideal filming locations for the show, New York was their first choice. However, the show's creator, Paul Henning, had the final say, and for good reason. He thought filming in New York would cost them more, which is why the Clampetts ended up in California. Their home may not be in the Big Apple, but the Hillbillies did get to film an episode in New York, though. After leaving their Ozark Hills property, the Clampetts struck gold and immediately bought their Beverly Hills mansion in California. Did you know? This magnificent mansion in the show was actually owned by Arnold Kirkeby. His residence was located in Baer, and to film the show, the producers offered to pay him $500 daily. It's too bad Kirkeby passed away before the first episode aired, but this is where trouble began. You see, after Kirkeby's death, the whole cast and production crew continued filming on his property, but it was his widow who breached the contract and leaked the address of the mansion. As a result, fans came pouring into the location, often disrupting filming. They couldn't even film outside shots anymore because of that. Although Max Baer Jr. came forward with the truth about the cast members' dynamics back then, apparently there's real-life tension between two of his co-stars, namely Buddy Ebsen and Nancy Culp. In the show, we see Culp's character as being doting and understanding toward the Clampetts, but in reality, she often had heated arguments with Ebsen. And the reason? What else other than politics? Several cast members have attested to how the two would start off calmly, but ultimately, it would end up with raised voices and even name-calling. Thankfully, it never got out of hand, and there is no real bad blood between them. Moving forward, this next fact is actually pretty interesting, and many would have never guessed this character is doing this. We already know Baer plays the not-the-sharpest tool in the shed Jethro, but he also portrayed his twin, Irene. Irene appeared in 11 episodes throughout the whole series, with Baer dressed in drag and donning a wig. But did you know? They actually hired a voice actress to dub Irene's dialogues. Enter voice actress Linda K. Henning, the other figure who brought Irene to life. And here's another fun fact. She's actually the daughter of the show's creator. This is one of the few cases of nepotism we're rallying behind, because if it wasn't for her, Irene wouldn't be as colorful and lovable. Now, we've mentioned before how the show is inspired by the Civil War, but what happens if a big company takes direct inspiration from one of the show's characters without their consent? Here's what happened. We all know Barbie. She's everything and everywhere. But that's where the problem started. Mattel, the toy company behind Barbie, released a series of pop culture dolls back in 2010. One of them awfully looked a lot like the Beverly Hillbillies' Ellie Mae, right down to her plaid shirt, curly blonde pigtails, and hair ribbons. That's practically Donna Douglas's character in doll form. Many would feel honored to be modeled after a Barbie, but not Douglas. The actress ended up suing Mattel for not asking for her consent when they used her character's picture plastered on the front of the Barbie box. The lawsuit didn't drag on because ultimately it was settled in 2011. Speaking of suing, there's another cast member who also sued, but this time they sued the network. If there's one cast member who doesn't play about his character, it's Max Baer Jr. The actor even bought the rights to his character Jethro. Now, cut to years later, Baer made headline news after reports came pouring in that he sued the network for breach of contract. The actor claims that CBS secretly made a deal with Jethro's BBQ, a restaurant chain, and you could already guess the reason why. Yes, to cash in a little more. Well, Baer didn't like that they were cashing in on his character's name, so he sued them. Unfortunately, the judge junked Baer's claim of breach of contract, with the ruling that there was no evidence that Baer suffered actual financial damages because of the settlement CBS reached with the restaurant. Today, Jethro's BBQ restaurant chain is still operational in Iowa, and they maintain that they own their own trademark and are not part of the lawsuit between Baer and the network. Suing issues aside, let's get back on track with the Hillbillies. For an iconic show like theirs, it's not surprising to sneak in a familiar face or two from time to time. In fact, they were graced by one of the most famous faces in Hollywood, and you'd never guess what the said A-lister asked for in return. Legendary icon John Wayne, the face of Western and war films, appeared in one episode of the Beverly Hillbillies. As an established A-lister, many would think that his professional fee is sky-high, but surprisingly, the actor sought something other than money as payment for his TV appearance. For his role in the series, Wayne actually just asked for something simple, a fifth of bourbon. Who knew one of Hollywood's epitomes of rugged masculinity would ask for something like that on set? In the show, we saw Bea Benaderet take on the role of Pearl Bodine, the middle-aged mother of twins Jethro and Irene. We can't imagine anyone else taking on that role, but in reality, Benaderet almost played a different character in the series. When she first came in for the reading of the Beverly Hillbillies, Benaderet read for the role of Granny, but after reading the character and learning more about Granny's role in the show, the actress opted out. Lucky for us, she did, because we wouldn't have the Pearl Bodine that we know now. There are probably many more secrets that happen behind closed doors, but until Max Baer Jr. revealed what those are, we're still kept in the dark. Speaking of Max Baer Jr., the actor became one of the most successful, if not the most successful, out of the Beverly Hillbillies cast. But you'd be surprised how his massive fortune didn't come from acting. After the Beverly Hillbillies wrapped up in 1971 after 9 seasons, many may find it hard to believe that Baer found it hard to find decent work. For one, he was stereotyped into the role of Jethro. Thus, he was mostly offered similar parts. So instead of grinding it out in acting, he decided to act smart and shift his focus behind the camera, which includes writing, producing, and directing. In 1974, he achieved commercial success in the 1974 drama Macon County Line, which he produced and starred in. This project of his earned an impressive $30 million at the box office. Then, 2 years later, he produced Ode to Billie Joe, which was based on Bobby Gentry's song, Ode to Billie Joe. What makes this iconic is that Baer became one of the first filmmakers to use a popular song as the title and hook for a film, and it grossed $27 million. Now that he found his recipe for success, Baer then tried to buy the rights to Madonna's Like a Virgin during the 80s, but ABC tried to stop him from making the film. This eventually led to the actor suing the network, and lucky for him, he won a judgment of over $2 million in the process. Then, during the 90s, he decided to buy the sublicensing rights to the Beverly Hillbillies from CBS and installed Beverly Hillbillies-themed slot machines in different casinos, once again racking up his finances. Today, Celebrity Net Worth estimates the actor has a net worth of $50 million.